Hiring an executive assistant helped me scale my 7-figure business and enabled me to be able to travel the world while buying back my time. And in this video, I'm going to go over how to hire one, where to find one, how to hire right, how I train mine, and the mistakes to avoid. So to dive into this, when should you hire an executive assistant in the first place is using the buyback rate. So the buyback rate, I got this from Dan Martell from Buy Back Your Time, that book. The idea is that you want to divide the amount of money that you're making in the year, so your annual income, divide it by the amount of hours that somebody generally works throughout the year, and that's around 2,000 hours outside of vacation. That becomes to an hourly rate, and your goal is to times your hourly rate by 25%, and that is your buyback rate. And so this buyback rate in this example of $200,000 a year, you divide that by 2,000, you're making $100 an hour. If you were making $200,000 a year, your buyback rate would be $25 an hour. And so the takeaway is that you want to be delegating tasks that are everything below $25 an hour. So here's what you should delegate when you bring on an executive assistant. So communication items, operations, research and planning, and personal admin. So to give you an example of what this actually looks like in my life as I have a executive assistant, is mainly the things that I've been procrastinating on. That's like the main question that I'm asking myself. And so here are some examples. And I have a SOP, which is a standard operating procedure, which is a fancy way of saying a manual of all of the things that I need done. This is the how-to book in order to achieve that. So for example, sending gift cards through American Express, finding property cards, especially in real estate. And these are just some, I have thousands of different things. These are just 7 of them. So next is grabbing property information. So say for example, I walk a property and I want to send it and put it into our CRM. I can just do a voice note of, hey, this property was a 3-bed, 2-bath. Here's what's wrong with it, all of that. And then my executive assistant helps me put it into our CRM where we can manage it. Additionally, real estate in other countries is a small thing that she helps me with. So when I'm traveling in other countries, I need to document what I'm doing in those countries for tax reasons. And I do the same idea with a voice memo, where I just voice memo to her all of the activities that I did, and she's be able to capture that and put that in a catalog. So if I were to get audited, I can show all the things that I've been doing. Also helps me with payroll, and also helps me add courses for my business, for Loom videos and just different content that I create. It helps me put it in different places. Also just sending personality assessments as well to different team members. So all these things that I was procrastinating on, I created a process where I can create a video or a step-by-step written explanation on how to do it, and I was able to delegate it. So this is what my SOP looks like. So those are some examples of things that you should delegate, items above that buyback rate. So this is specifically your company vision, hiring key leaders, culture and values, so being a leader in that aspect, big decisions, and then high value sales conversations. So say for example, the highest thing that you could be doing is sales calls. You wouldn't necessarily want to delegate that. Maybe you delegate the prep work for that sales call, and so you could read the notes and all of that, but you wouldn't want to actually delegate the sales call if that is a high money making activity for you. So safe things is usually just admin stuff, scheduling, coordination, research and follow-up, and there's all these other items. So if you guys would like to learn more, comment down below and I could send you additional ways that we delegate. So where you should hire. I've used Upwork and I have experience with that, but here are other spots that you can do. Onlinejobs.ph is people in the Philippines. Athena, I've heard, and also just referrals. But how to actually approach Upwork is the following way. It's a matter of going to this job section once you create an Upwork account. And Upwork is free initially to create an account. So you'd go to jobs, post a job, and then here is the actual job that I've done in the past. You guys could just copy this. This is exactly what I was looking for to help me manage across multiple businesses. Here's the skills that I was looking for. Location preferences, I just did that just randomly. Here's the budget based off of my buyback rate, and that was my job ad. So feel free to copy this, and then it's just a matter of posting it. And so once you post it on Upwork, you can then invite team members. After you finalize your job post, it's going to say choose the right option for you. And I'm on the free version here. You can just post a standard job, and you can invite up to 30 freelancers, and I'll show you what that consists of. Or you can post a feature job, and this is actually where it would cost money, but I was able to find one just doing this all for free. So you click post as a standard for free. So then you're going to be in the section of inviting freelancers, and then you can find people that may be a good fit, and you just invite them to that job. So you invite them to a job, invite them to a job. You can filter here as well, filters by hourly rate, their category, and this is just random right now, I haven't set this up, but you can filter by certain locations if you want to work with certain people in different time zones or whatever the case is, the hourly rate, their past experience, and all of that. So also their level of English or whatever language you are speaking. So very cool way to find talent. So to go over it, my hiring process, once I'm actually invited and found people that I'm considering to hire, I list everything I want to delegate. So I give them the expectations of, hey, here's the job. I write a detailed job description like what I just showed before. I post the job, I review the applications, and what I do is I try to get all these applicants to send me a Loom video answering a few questions, or rather just any application video of themselves answering a few questions of what I would like to see of how they would be in this job. So say, for example, for an executive assistant, you can just use ChatGPT to find questions that you can use to hire. So for example, a question could be is, what is your background being an executive assistant? Do you have any experience in it? And then it could be a video of them talking about their experience. And outside of the actual answer that they have, I like to see their demeanor, how they speak in English, especially if that's being my first language. I need to be able to communicate with them. And it's a really quick and efficient way to hire quickly. So this is a big one. It doesn't have to be Loom of how they send you the video application, but that is a really helpful way to be able to screen applicants, is using a video. You could also give a test project as well if you wanted to test for a certain thing that they would be doing, and that the whole purpose here is you want to hire slow and fire fast. So hiring slow, you want to make sure you really find a good person that would work, but there's a balance here where you're never going to know they're perfect until you throw them into the job. This is one way to save you some time, is to give them a test project. So say, for example, all they're going to be doing is finding like tax cards or something for real estate. You can send a video, how-to video on how to actually do that, and then they could do it on their own time. You send them the video, and then you give them a deadline, and doing that, test for a few things. One is you can see if they can complete things on time. Also, you can see if they can handle instructions and do a task. And so I highly recommend doing a test project. And then lastly is all the people that kind of pass that interview for you. You're going to have finalists, and then you decide the one that's the best fit. So a big thing I'm looking for is attitude over experience. So I care much about who they are and not necessarily what's on their resume. It's awesome if they have experience on their resume. However, I'm really looking for the soft skills. If they have strong communication, are they able to good attention to detail? Can they be coachable? Can they learn from all these videos and instructions that I am going to tell them to do? Can they learn quickly? And then do they have a positive attitude? These are like a few things that it's very hard to train for that. So I am looking for that, and that's a lot higher tier for me, at least for an executive assistant side, because I can teach them a lot of the skills. Because a lot of the skills are like admin, like small tasks that aren't too complicated. So I can teach them that, but it's very hard to teach like being extreme ownership, for example, of like taking blame versus blaming outside circumstances, or how to be respectful when they're talking to somebody on the phone. I would rather have somebody that has those prerequisite skills when it comes to those soft skills versus the hard skills of like being able to do admin work. So from experience, I highly recommend who they are versus what's actually on their resume. If they do have a great resume and stuff, that's just a bonus. And the takeaway is hire slow, fire fast. So just do this upfront work. So how I train my executive assistant, I mentioned this before, but I'm recording a bunch of videos, and I actually use Talent MLS. And the whole concept is all of these are different sections for tasks I would like to delegate. So I just put it in an organized fashion, and this is like the onboarding course for them. And so all I did was I just created Loom videos. If you don't have the Loom, I highly recommend exploring Loom. But it's a way to just create videos very easily, and all I do is just press extension on my Google Chrome browser. I create a video on how to do that certain task, and then I put it into this course, and then I just created sections on the certain tasks that I would like to delegate. So for example, here I have task trackers of how I am holding my assistant accountable on like a daily checklist of all the things I want her to do in the day. Additionally, let's just go to something random. How to like add a buyer for real estate into our CRM, and like all these super small things. Different sections for each. For example, in finances, our company's tasks for certain companies. It's all in one spot, so I highly recommend Talent MLS is a way to organize and delegate tasks. And to wrap this up, they can shadow you on this certain things. I just recommend that you do the video so they can just keep watching it. So videos are just a great way to buy back your time. Perform and review, right? They do it, and then you'll need to give them feedback though to see if they actually did well. And we use Slack for all of this communication. Slack is free. You can do the free version, and this will give you exactly what you need for as an executive assistant. But here's an example. I get different channels for different communication things that we work on together. I have a weekly, monthly report section where I'm getting a weekly report on what she's going to do in the week and what she accomplished for the week. And I have a channel where I see the report. And so you can use a bunch of different channels on any other tasks, but this is how we communicate. It's a very efficient and organized fashion on communication. And the biggest mistakes I've made, and I wish I have done, just to kind of wrap this up in conclusion, is if I were to start over, I would document more things that I knew I was going to have to delegate. So rather than when you have the person, you're just creating a bunch of videos in real time right now. If you know you're going to get an executive assistant, I would start creating videos now knowing that you're going to delegate it in the future. So that's what I would recommend doing. And then also delegating too much too fast. You don't want to just throw everything at them all at once. Depends on the person that you hire. So I would slowly build up and ask them, hey, is this too much? Like, right, feel it out. And also that you build trust throughout that process, so you can give them more. Additionally, you want to be very specific on instructions. So what I do, and I got this from Dan Martell as well, and Buy Back Your Time, is you want to give them a definition of done. So what does that actually mean is you want to give them the exact blueprint of what would the task at hand, when it's completed, what does it look like? So for example, say I do a task of I want them to create a table on all of the data of all of the properties that I sold. So what does that actually look like? I would tell them to, and I would actually leverage ChatGPT, the best way to approach this, to get this definition of done. But the goal is to create crystal clear instructions of what it looks like when it's completed. And don't necessarily give them the how to complete it, but just give them like, hey, this is what the end product I'm looking for. So in that example, it would be the following. I just talked to ChatGPT, and you could use Claude, whatever AI you recommend. I'm just like, hey, give me a definition of it done based off of the task I just mentioned. And then here's what I would copy and paste and give to my executive assistant. So you could just read this. This is exactly what I would be looking to delegate. And the goal is just to make it very specific so there's no ambiguity and it's crystal clear of what like success looks like regarding that task that you want to delegate. Next is waiting too long to give feedback. You want to give feedback as quick as possible so they can learn from the mistakes that they made, or if they actually did well, tell them that they did well so they keep doing that. So you want to give praise as soon as possible, and if they did something that they could improve, you want to tell them as soon as possible. And the concept is latency over intensity. Feel free to look that up. So next is micromanaging after trust was earned. So there's a fine line here where at first when you first hire them, you're gonna really see how they do in the tasks, and then as they prove themselves, make sure to back off a little bit. Give them more room and agency to do the task at hand because they built that trust up with you. And obviously if they slip, then you're gonna go back to them a little bit and help, and then as they get it back up to speed, you're gonna be more hands off. So there's a constant teetering process for this one. And lastly is that they're not gonna do everything perfect. And so the idea is to take extreme ownership. If say they were to mess up in a certain thing, ask yourself, was there something I could have done better? And build a system or a better video, explanation video, or whatever it is to make sure that it's no way in your fault of why they didn't succeed in that task. So just take that extreme ownership. That mindset will get you very far rather than blaming, hey, this person's not a good executive assistant. Yes, that could very well be the case. However, you have the mindset of, hey, did I do everything in my power to make sure that they were successful, will make this work in the long run. So you really want to have that mindset. And then obviously if you've done everything in your power and it's still not working out and they're not doing the things, then I would repeat the process of hiring somebody else. So I hope this video was valuable to you on how to hire an executive assistant. If you have any questions, comment down below. So we've built all these systems in our own business. If you want access to everything, all the links are below. Subscribe if this helped. Thank you so much, and until next time.